Hello, my name is Allison Penton, and my prompt for today's presentation is explain to first-year medical students how stress and human emotions can influence our health for good or ill. According to the American Psychological Association, stress is any uncomfortable emotional experience accompanied by predictable biochemical, physiological, and behavioral changes. Stress affects everyone, no matter age, gender, or circumstance, and it can lead to both physical and psychological health issues. According to a lecture done by Dr. Jack Bawden, stress enters the body through the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. This is responsible for the neuroendocrine adaptation component of the stress response within the body. Hypothalamic release of corticotropin releasing factor, or CRF, is the beginning of this process. The CRF binds to receptors on the anterior pituitary gland, and the hormone adrenocorticotropic hormone is released. It's also known as ACTH. ACTH then binds to receptors on the adrenal cortex and stimulates the adrenal release of cortisol. In response to stressors, cortisol is released for several hours, and at a certain blood concentration of cortisol, this protection is ostensibly achieved, and cortisol exerts negative feedback to the hypothalamic release of CRF and the pituitary release of the ACTH. This is when the systemic homeostasis returns, and those hormones are no longer released. According to the American Psychological Association, stress can be beneficial sometimes. It produces a boost that provides the drive and energy to help people get through situations like exams or work deadlines. A good amount of stress can motivate medical students through intense exams, for example. Extreme amount of stress, however, can adversely affect the immune, cardiovascular, neuroendocrine, and central nervous systems. It has a severe emotional toll on a person. Everyday stressors can be overcome by the body's natural chemical defense mechanisms, but once chronic stress sets in, it can result in anxiety, insomnia, muscle pain, high blood pressure, a weakened immune system, and many other things. Despite its connection to illness, however, the American Psychological Association did a survey of stress in America, and it revealed that 33% of Americans never discuss ways to manage stress with their healthcare providers. Serious stress can occur in response to everyday stressors that are ignored or poorly managed, as well as exposure to traumatic events. Contributors to anxiety and depression are also configured in stress. The association between both acute and chronic stress and a person's abuse of addictive substances are all included. Human emotions are another part of this presentation. Paul Ekman identified 6 basic emotions in the 20th century. These were anger, disgust, happiness, fear, sadness, and surprise. Basic emotions evolved in response to the ecological challenges faced by our remote ancestors and are so primitive as to be hardwired, with each basic emotion corresponding to a distinct and dedicated neurological circuit. They are fast, universal, and innate. People who have good emotional health are aware of their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. They have learned healthy ways to cope with the stress and problems that are a normal part of life. They feel good about themselves and have healthy relationships. Your body responds to the way you think, feel, and act. There is a very obvious mind-body connection. Bad emotional health can lead to chronic stress, which we just talked about. It upsets the body's hormone balance, depletes the brain chemicals required for happiness, and damages the immune system. Poorly managed or repressed anger, for example, or hostility, is also related to a slew of health conditions, such as hypertension, cardiovascular disease, digestive disorders, and infections. There was a study done in Saudi Arabia called Stress and Its Effects on Medical Students, a cross-sectional study at a college of medicine in Saudi Arabia. In this study, it was conducted to determine the prevalence of stress among medical students and to observe an association between the levels of stress and their academic performance. The prevalence of stress was measured and compared with the 5 study variables, such as gender, academic year, academic grades, regularity to course attendance, and perceived physical problems. The study showed that sometimes stress could help to motivate when they were taking large tests or trying to impress superiors. However, large amounts of stress caused an increase in the physical well-beings of a large number of the study participants. From the study, it said, a high prevalence of stress among medical students is a cause of concern as it may impair behavior of students, diminish learning, and ultimately affect patient care after their graduation. Unfortunately, there seems to be a snowball effect, but managing stress is a good way to avoid that. The academic excellence of these students did not go down as much as they expected, but the physical well-being of the students was very highly prevalent. An element of stress is involved with growth and is essential for sound personal functioning. Stress may seem like a hassle every day in our lives, but we use it to overcome obstacles and continue to go through life with new mindsets and a stronger well-being. Some ways that we can relieve stress is to find ways to cope with everyday stress, healthy ways. Also to build relationships, especially in medical school. Finding residents and students that are in the same boat as you is a good way to keep your emotions high and to keep your physical well-being at a stable level. Another thing they can do is alter perceptions and build new expectations. It is said a lot that medical school is much different than high school or even college. It's a new animal, and they have to create a new mindset for themselves so that they can succeed in this new environment as well. This will avoid them being disappointed with themselves, lowering their emotions, and lowering their stress rates. Finally, they should practice healthy habits early: diet, physical activity, etc. This means that they need to start trying to be healthier right at the beginning. They can't wait 3 years into medical school and then start getting healthy. They need to start in the earlier stage of their development so that they can provide new habits for themselves that will ensure their physical well-being through their emotional happiness and their healthy ways to cope with stress. Thank you.